Mohini Dey, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you. So lovely to be here.
Last time I spoke to you was at the NAMM Show, and you were very excited because it was your first NAMM Show. Here we are.
That's right.
We're here again, and you're excited again for another first, the release of your debut album. Do you think that will that excitement ever leave you? Do you think?
I hope not. I hope not. I think this childlike excitement should always stay with one, and this helps me stay grounded, and this really makes me look forward to many more exciting projects.
When I spoke to you at NAMM, your solo album wasn't a priority at the time. You were busy performing. You did have some material recorded. Did any of that material
Yeah.
did that material make it to this album?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've been talking to a few people around here as well as in the US and Europe, and they've been asking me the same thing like, hey, we remember working with you, and we remember you used to write some tunes on the side as well, simultaneously, doing all the projects as well as writing my own songs for my album. And I kept saying, yeah, I'm going to release it one day. I don't know when, but I'm going to release it one day. But right now, in the initial stages of my stepping into the industry and playing with certain people, it was important for me to have that real time experience playing with other people. I didn't think at that time it was important for me to release my own thing because I wanted to prioritize other people's work and other people's projects because I was getting booked a lot and I was getting hired for very important projects. And I always thought, hey, I'll always have time for myself. So, I can always release it whenever. Come to find out, I become so busy, then I have no time for myself after so many years. I mean, it's been like, what, 18 years I've been working in the music industry. I started when I was 9, and I started writing my own songs on music at around when I was probably 12 or 13 years old, So the first song that I ever wrote was Introverted Soul, that was before I got to play with any of the big artists, that was the time when I started learning about Carnatic music and really got fascinated by the capacity of percussive instruments. That was, I think I talked about it at NAMM as well, like how conical is such a huge influence in my slap playing. So I use that a lot, and you will see a lot of those elements in my album as well. But of course, with time, we all evolve, and our music as well, our musicality, our musicianship, everything. As a human being, we all evolve in so many different forms in different phases of our life, and I think it's happened with my music as well. The first song I wrote was Introverted Soul, although at that time, like, I truly was an introvert, but now looking at me, a lot of people would say, oh, I'm an extrovert, but really I'm not. I think a lot of people get this misconception. I think they have this misconception about me because they see me on stage with this bold ass personality with my high heels on and my bass and playing my ass off. But really, like, in my heart, I'm very shy, and like when I am around people, I'm always very like I avoid confronting people, and I avoid talking to people. If they come up to me, it's fine. I get into conversation with them, and I'm nice. Obviously, I'm not rude or arrogant, but there is a certain kind of fear that is within me from being at home and liking my own space, and I like to be in my own little bubble and not kind of go out and be around a lot of people. Crowd is kind of, it makes me anxious, it makes me a little conscious, but nobody would be able to tell. But yeah, a lot of those songs that I wrote in my initial stages of my journey have made it to this album. Few have not, but they will make it to the next album, So that was one song. And then Emotion is another song, which is just a bass solo track. and the third one is kick bass that I initially had my sister on, and she was probably 11 or 12 when she recorded on the song, and it just kept evolving the more we played in different shows, and we have the incredible Narada Michael Walden on it, and I'm so grateful to have had him on the song, and he's just, you know, such a genius. You know, his musicality and the thing that he brought to the table was so unique and made the song really complete. You know, the song just evolved and just he took it to another level. He just elevated the song in the sense that I wanted it to go. I wanted it to go to that place, and it did. But down the line, so many years passed by, and we all got busy with our lives. And can you imagine? I still had Narada's files like 13 years ago. He recorded on that song, Kick Bass, and those files made it to the album, and it still sounds like anything that is so advanced, you know, for his time. Like, he thought of this 13 years ago, and it's still relevant and it still works. I recorded my bass files again, but he did not. His files are old, 13 years ago. And I was trying to get my sister on it, but she, you know, is so busy nowadays. She's busy with her projects, and she's busy recording for a lot of movies and background scores, so she did not have the time to record on the song, but I wish I did have her. But we have my Gotthard playing on kick bass because I wanted to finish my album. It was time that I put myself first, you know, now, and just get over with this album, because it had been too long and people were waiting. I would get a lot of emails and messages asking me about, hey, when are you going to release your album? Like, we're dying to hear your album. And I truly see the excitement, because I exclusively released it on Bandcamp, and my God, the love has been unreal.
Yeah. So what was the goal from the outset? What did you want to achieve with this album?
You know, my goals are very simple. Firstly, to start with, I would say that, you know, becoming a musician was never my plan, right? You know, it was my dad's dream to have two kids and have them be musicians, because he loved music and he wanted to always have music in his life, and he always wanted his kids to have music in his life, which is such a great, you know, intent to have with your kids, you know, because music brings joy and it helps you in so many different stages of your life. With my upbringing, I didn't start loving music until I got to probably, I don't know, the age of 12 or 13. I started learning the bass from my dad at around the age of 3, and then, you know, seriously started taking lessons at the age of 6 or 7. And so, like, playing from the age of 7 till the age of 13, I got really good. You know, kids' brains are so fast, like, we pick up things so fast, you know. So I got really good, and I still wasn't enjoying to the point where I could make up my mind as to if I want this to be my profession. You know, I was always drawn towards fashion and I wanted to do that. But down the line, what happened is playing with certain musicians made me realize that I'm really good and I could bring a lot more to the table, and I'm capable of a lot more. And that challenge kind of became my goal, to kind of prove to people that, hey, even a girl can play a masculine instrument, you know, because a lot of people I would see would have this like ideology, this I don't know what to call it, this myth of calling the bass a masculine instrument. Firstly, how does an instrument even have a gender? You know, it's only because a lot of people see other males or, you know, guys playing bass. At that time, there were not many female bass players. Now we have a lot of female bass players, but back then we didn't have any. At least in India, we had none, you know. And so dad's intent was really, really great, and he started teaching me lessons, and I started getting really good, and I started playing with a lot of musicians, and I would get this idea, or I would get this kind of message, like a hidden message from certain people when I would travel with my dad, that they always said to dad, or they always said to me indirectly that, oh, she's a girl and she's young and she's playing a masculine instrument, she's not strong enough, and they never said that, they never encouraged saying that, oh, you're going to get better, or like, you're going to get there or whatever. Not even a single statement like that. And so that kind of became my goal, to prove to those people that through my music, because I was not much of a talker, and even today, like I let the music speak for itself rather than talking. So I did that, and I wanted to prove to those people through my music that there's no such thing as gender when it comes to instruments, and there's no such thing as getting hired because of your gender. I wanted to cut those things out. Even today, like I see a lot of people, especially in our industry, because we are in the entertainment industry. I see that a lot of people hire certain female musicians because they're pretty, but they can't play, but I wanted to break that system and prove to people. Even today I'm trying to do that, where I want people to hire musicians regardless of their gender, based on their skill level, not because of their gender. And so through this album, I hope people can see that I hope people can see through my album my 13 years of hardships, 13 years of my journey, my history, all the learning that has gone into it, all my experiences that has gone into it. There are so many incredible drummers on it. There's so many incredible guitarists on it, keyboardists on it. Mark Hartsuch is on sax. Guthrie Govan is on guitar. Simon Phillips is on drums, Narada Michael Walden, Gergo Borlai, Mike Gotthard on guitar, Scott Kinsey, like so many amazing, incredible artists. And this is my way of paying gratitude to those musicians through my album. Music is basically the only thing I know apart from fashion, that I let my creativity speak for itself through music and through fashion. When you see me wear crazy outfits, that's me. I designed it, I stitched it, that's my intent behind trying to do something seriously, and so I hope through this album people can see that that music for me is not just about feeling good. It's my life. It's a story that I'm trying to tell through my album.
When amazing musicians are playing complex music, there can be a danger that a record or performance comes across as just people showing off. But this is very complex music, but it seems you've gone to great lengths to deliver music with great melodies, and it's very pleasant to listen to. How conscious were you of it not being just a shred fest?
I never considered myself or looked at myself as a shredder. I still don't look at myself as a shredder artist. It's funny when I hear people say that. I understand, because on social media everything is flashy. But if you had only seen me in other bands that I used to play, and not anymore, but I used to play in certain bands where I would just play the groove, I would just play that one single groove without any improvisations for 10 minutes, and then move on to the next song with another groove for another 10 minutes. And that's I've done shows where I've played like that for 3 hours, I played in that band for, I don't know, about 8 years or so, and many other bands simultaneously, where I've needed to play just groove. I'm a bass player, that's the bass player's role. But yes, today the roles are slowly kind of changing, and we're bringing the instruments to a different light through our unique voices, I think, because the technology is advancing at such a fast pace. Everything else alongside is also advancing at a fast pace. I, as a kid growing up, was always very advanced for my age, due to working with older musicians. I was 9 and already working with 30-year-olds. You know, I was 20 and I was already working with over 50-year-olds. You know, I'm 27 now, and I'm working with people who are over 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds. You know, like for me, like I've never looked at the age. You know, everybody points it out, and then I'm like, oh, you know what, really, I am actually so young. You know, and I'm playing with so many legendary musicians, and it's so great to be doing that, because not only am I getting to play with them, but also seeing their level of musicianship and grasping their level of how they deal with things and how they go about projects and stuff. I have my way, my business way of dealing with things. But having said that, I think a lot of people like thought that this album is going to be like full on, like just like bass throughout, bass throughout, and not about like songs. I think not a lot of people knew that I could write songs, but I was actually producing a lot of I was actually producing a lot of records for other artists while playing for other musicians. So through this album, I think my main three goals were, first, to be able to play with more and many more incredible artists around the globe, and the second goal being, I just want to tell my story. You know, I want to tell my story. There are lots of stories out there, there are a lot of interviews out there, but the best way I could tell my story is through my music. You know, so I can have my audience see where I'm coming from. You know, this is like I said, 13 years of my growing into this album. You know, and third goal being, just, this is an inspiration for myself to keep writing more, because I don't want to get carried away by other projects like I did in the past. That was necessary for my evolving, but now it's necessary for myself, for my own self, to keep myself encouraged with my own album to write more and more albums. So I'm already writing the second record, you know, so I can release it next year. So this is going to be a thing now for in my life, where I'm going to keep releasing records year after year. You know, that's my, I guess, way of telling my story to the audience through my music, and to keep me thriving for more and more.
Yeah, I think the point of what I was saying initially there was that there is a great sense of melody in this music on this album.
Yeah.
And was that a focus for you?
No, it wasn't a focus. When I'm writing music, I'm not thinking about what I want to write. If I get inspired by a certain situation, or if I'm depressed by a certain situation, suddenly I'll start hearing some things, which is, I don't know if that's the way other people write music, but when I'm happy, I get inspired, or if I hear something, I get inspired, and I'll hear a melody, you know. There's one song on the album called First Food Then You, and the melody goes, now that melody is a melody that kept haunting me for years and years. Every time I got into the studio, I could never remember it, but I always remembered it backstage. Every show, that melody would come to me and then leave me, never come back when I want to remember that melody. So one day when this is like after 6-7 years of trying to get this melody back in my head, one day at some show backstage, this melody came to me, and I recorded it on my phone. And that was it. I said to myself, I'm going to record this song. I came back home after that tour, and I recorded that song. I sent it to Marco Minneman, and he played on that song. And I created this kind of drum and bass. This is my version of drum and bass, not the EDM electronica version of today's time. This is my version, I call it, of drum and bass. So Marco's gonna have this drum and bass section in the song, which is my bass solo bit. I think that song is a lot different than all the other songs, but yes, it still does have a melody, because what is a song without a melody, firstly? I've never understood a song without a melody. Yeah, riffs and lines and unisons and parts are cool, but I need to hear that melody. I need the song to either come back to that melody, come back to that verse in some way. It doesn't have to repeat exactly, but in some way, that harmonic passage has to somehow be restated, in the song. Because if you're not able to tell a story like that, I just cannot relate for my own liking. Of course it's subjective, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Was it easy for you to come up with song titles for instrumental tracks?
Yeah, it was. I'm very good with naming tracks. I always knew I wanted to, name a song called Meat Eater because I don't eat vegetables. And I think that has remained the same since I spoke to you from NAMM times. That hasn't changed. And yeah, a lot of people are just like so surprised to hear that I only eat meat and I don't eat any vegetables. So I had to write a song about myself called Meat Eater. And every time I play this song, people just like love it. Not only love it, but also are so just they're just laughing their ass off because that's about me. I mean, who writes a song about themselves? But hey, that's a gift to myself. That's how I just have joy and like I just think that it's so fun when you can write a story about your own self, but as well as others. I have who do I have on that song? Let's see. We have Mark Hartsuch on sax. We have um, of course me playing bass. We have Gergo Borlai on drums. Who's playing guitar on Meat Eater? I have to check, but I think it's Bumblefoot playing guitar on Meat Eater. And wow, that song turned out so good. And you will see in that song, yes, there are a lot of parts, but yes, there's a melody. And there are a lot of elements of konakol, different polyrhythmic structures heading into the actual melody. And the song actually starts on the offbeat of the second beat. So when we play the song, I think a lot of people think that it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. The very first line is not on the first beat, but it's on the off. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. One boom, one and that really kind of messes a lot of musicians' head. And it's not even after the fourth beat; it's on the second beat. So when I count it out on stage, it's 1, 2, to and that's also very weird because it's a very rare head to the song, to the actual melody. It just happened so that when I was writing the song that I realized that wow, the song actually starts after the second beat, but everything is in the same tempo throughout the entire song. No meter changes. Everything's in 4/4, but it sounds like it's not in 4/4.
Yeah.
Same with kick bass. I think a lot of people think it's in 4, but it's 3/4.
Did you use many basses on this album?
Yeah, I used for I think for First Food Than You, I used the purple glitter bass, that one. And then for rest of the songs, I used my signature bass that I use all the time, which is not hanging up here. It's packed because I got a show tomorrow, so it's packed. But yeah, that bass has been kind of my go-to bass for everything. It just sounds so versatile. Mayonnaise has done such a great job making me this bass. It's a Komodo's Classic 5, but the pickups and the OBP3 preamp really make a huge difference with the power as well as the resonance and the quality of cutting through the mix. And I absolutely enjoy this sound. I know it's a very different tone from all the other bass players. Not many bass players go for this very high mids and low mids heavy tone with the heavy bridge pickup tone, but I personally really enjoy that. It helps me stay at a good place with the drummer when I am playing heavy stuff. Otherwise, it's very easy to get lost with the kick frequency and the low end frequency. I have a good amount of sub with my sound, but it's just enough for my liking. And I think a lot of people, other if it were another bass player, I think they would like more of a round tone and more of a richer tone than the kind of tone that I have. I think my tone is rich in its way to my liking, because when I slap, it's very, very rich with the high mids and a lot of low end. It's so heavy on the sub, as well as when I'm finger style playing. It's a lot heavy on the lows, but you can hear the low mids cutting through just right. I just need it to be like that because I play very technical things and I play really fast. So it helps my playing and my technique, and saves me a lot of stamina as well when I'm playing a lot of long shows. And yeah, that's just my sound.
Yeah. One of my favorite tracks on the album is Emotion, which is pretty much all you on bass.
Yeah.
Was that track always going to be that way? Did you try other versions with other instrumentation?
No, that has always been just a bass solo track. Actually, I remember how that song came about. I was doing a masterclass somewhere, and I always take like an open solo in my master classes, or if somebody asks me to take an open solo in the shows, yeah, I'm happy to. I love soloing, but I also love grooving. And through the album, you can see there's a lot of heavy grooves in there and melodies. But to answer your question, I was playing this open solo in a master class, and this groove kind of just started coming to me while I was playing my bass, which was so you'll see that the song starts with that line, and I'm like, wow, that's a very funky line. I think I should build that. And I kept building it, and I recorded it through my looper pedal for the masterclass, and I kind of just kept soloing on top of it. And that's how that song kind of came about. I went back home and I'm like, wow, that sounded really good. And it's very rare that I would come back home and be like, wow, that sounded really good, really good. It's always like, I could have done better. This is not good. This wasn't good. But that day I was like, this is really interesting. I should record this. So I laid down a little bed for myself. And I started soloing on it, and you'll see it has a form. It keeps repeating. That form keeps repeating. And when I'm playing live, I can do how many ever times I want to. But for the album, I kept it to a certain length because I wanted to make sure that I don't go over time for the entire record, so I can print the entire album on a vinyl, because if I go any beyond 45 minutes, I cannot have all the songs. And I made sure that my album was under 45. It's just like, it's exactly 44 minutes. So I was able to achieve that through having that song.
Yeah.
By having that song.
Something else that you recently did was played on a couple of tracks of Melbourne-based guitarist Chris Bienick's album.
Ah, yeah.
What was it about Chris's music that made you want to play on that?
I think, if I'm not wrong, Chris made a cover version of Giant Steps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really, really fun. I was really blown away by his version of Giant Steps. I hadn't played Giant Steps before that ever. And to play that version when I've never played the original version, it was kind of interesting. I thought that he had such a great mind for these things. I think it's a real quality and a capability to have that mind of making cover versions of certain songs and reharmonizing certain songs. I love doing that myself, and I've seen a lot of people come up with so many amazing versions of Spain. Like, I absolutely love Jesus Molina's version of Spain, that he plays in his live shows. And I mean, there are so many bands that have done so many cover versions of so many jazz standards, you know. I think it's amazing, and I think Chris Biniak is one of many musicians that has that essence and that has the quality of understanding what works and what doesn't work. And I had a blast working with him. Honestly, it was so easy to work with him. He just sent me the song, I recorded it. He didn't tell me what to do. He had a MIDI bass, and he said, "Hey, you listen to it and you do whatever you feel like. That's just for reference, but feel free to do whatever you feel like." I think I laid down a solo in that song as well, and that was really fun. And we did a video for that song. I think it's doing pretty well. I have to check. It's been a while, but yeah, he's a very, very unique musician, and I absolutely enjoyed working with him.
Getting back to your album, do you hope to do some shows playing the album?
Yeah, I'm currently planning to do an India tour with my album. So I'm gonna call it Mohini Dey, a debut album launch tour, starting from India, and then I'm also trying to get some shows going in Japan. I think Japan is one of the countries that's really, really close to my heart, and I have a lot of fans in Japan. So I'm trying to see if I can organize a tour there, and of course US as well. So 2024 hopefully would be Japan and US. I am doing a couple of shows at Alvis in the month of if I'm not wrong, October? No, sorry, in January 2024. In January 2024, I have two shows that I'm doing at Alvis Auditorium. I will release the dates very soon. We're working on it. But we're also going to be doing 2 nights with the Mamoji set, which is another lineup that myself, Mark Hartsuch, and Gino Banks have collectively. And Mamoji is going to be playing at Alvis Auditorium in January as well. So we'll have 2 nights of Mamoji and then 2 nights of Mohini Dey album launch tour. So it'll be quite a blast.
Yeah. Your album is out August 18. Where will it be available?
Okay, so it's already exclusively available on Bandcamp for people who don't know, and for people who want to wait and hear it on all the other audio platforms. My album is releasing on the 18th of August on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, blah, 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 all the other audio platforms. And my physical CDs can be bought from my website directly, which is on www.mohinidebase.in, where people can buy the physical CDs. It's only available for India at the moment, but I am working on trying to get physical CDs and vinyls delivered to US, Europe, other parts of the world as well. But to start with, because I do everything myself, I actually design my website myself and do basically everything myself. So it kind of gets hard to manage everything when it comes to promoting and like marketing and posting and thinking of like captions and video editing, and it's a lot of stuff when it comes to releasing an album nowadays. It's not as easy as it was before, when you just release an album and it's dependent on the music, and people go, wow, this music is great, and it blows up. But now it's all about the numbers nowadays, and your music can be great, but if your album doesn't blow up and if your numbers don't go to a certain number, don't hit a certain number, then it just stays there. That's the reality of today's era.
Yeah. Well, Mohini, it's a great album. You should be very proud of it. And it's been great to catch up again.
Same. Thank you so much. It was so lovely talking to you. And thank you so much for doing this with me.